You are now tuned to BS3 Network. You are now tuned to BS3 Network.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Perspective on this wonderful Thursday. What would you say, Doc?
I said we in the building.
We in the building. So we welcome everybody to Perspective once more. And as we always do, we welcome everyone. We want to kind of give a little pre-serve on what we're here for, perspective and what we're about. And I think what we're about is right there in the name. It's about perspective, different perspectives, different points of views, different opinions, different lived experiences. We feel like if we can discuss those openly in a safe place. So this is a safe tree, if you will, a place of truth where you can speak your true honesty. And at minimum, we can give it some respect. It doesn't mean that we agree with everything, and just because you disagree with someone doesn't make them correct and you wrong, or them wrong and you correct. It simply means you're different. And so whenever we look at those differences, listen to understand versus just to respond and reply, I think it brings us closer together. And that's what we like to do here at Perspective. So with that being said, I am Eric Butler, a.k.a. The Intellect, a.k.a. The Atlantic, because I'm cold, deep, and choppy, a.k.a. a Cullinan, because I'm the biggest diamond found on land, and ain't nothing nobody can do about it. I'm a father, grandfather. I've been in talent acquisitions for just short of two decades now. That's 17 years, y'all. And so this has afforded me the opportunity to really speak with a lot of different people, kind of usher into counseling, career coaching, career counseling, and also dig into the minds of others as I assess and review people. So it's led me into being a part of the community. I sit on the advisory board for a financial literacy nonprofit called the Empower Series. So I encourage you all to go onto YouTube, go to the Empower Series, and kind of look at some of the content and information we have there. Definitely like, subscribe, and share. We appreciate that. And with that being said, we'll go into it, and I'll pass the mic over to my uncomparable, stupendous. I always like to come up with new, stupendous co-host, LaToya, aka Doc.
Hi, thank you all so much for being here. My name is LaToya, aka Doc, aka them kids mama, aka Chef Jeff wife. I am a licensed professional counselor. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and I'm so excited to dive into this topic tonight. Let's get it. Let's go.
Let's get it.
Oh,
so for those who may not have took a look at the title on the screen, oh yeah, let's do this. Most importantly, and I love it. We already got comments. And first and foremost, Mr. Ben Sutter III. If you can't tell, Mr. Ben Sutter III puts the BS3 into the BS3 network. And his message is you can support BS3 network by sending stars. Stars help us earn money to continue building the network. And we thank you. Absolutely.
Yes, send those stars, guys. Bringing out content.
We have any other comments? Mr. J. Gilliard, welcome to the comment section. Yes, as you can tell, Mr. J. Gilliard is kind of like a controller, let's say, of the comment section. He rolls around in there, just skating around with no stick or nothing, just wishing somebody would. You know what I'm saying? That's how I envision it. Anyway, but thank you, Mr. J. Gilliard. That's my partner right there. All right.
All right, let's get into it.
So
I'm really excited about this topic because let me just jump right in and go ahead and say this. Hello, guys. So I'm a therapist, not your therapist. Everything that we say here is our perspective, not necessarily about you, not necessarily for you. We understand that for every situation that there will be an outlier. Okay, that's understood. Check. Now, I'm really excited about this topic because I think in our community, and by our, I mean Black people, there's this like cultish, like, don't question the mama, don't question big mama, don't go against it. And I think we need to talk about that. I think mamas need questions.
I agree. So the title of tonight's show or gathering and discussion is Parental Boundaries. I'm not a child anymore.
That's right.
Now, I like to put a precursor out there. I know it sounds one-sided, as if the parents are not understanding the boundaries of their adult children. But we already know that, any relationship, it's a two-way road. So there are things to be learned on both sides of the table. So we do, as Doc clearly stated, we do understand there are always outliers in every discussion and circumstance. So this is not to pick on you in your particular situation, but if it makes you feel froggy, then go ahead and jump, and we'd love to have a discussion. But with that being said, let's kind of get into it. Just take a moment, viewers, think about some of the relationship, let's say, hiccups you've had with your parents, especially in that early adulthood period when you're kind of transitioning, coming into your own. And how that may have played out. If it ended up being better, what are some of the things that helped it be better? If it was trash and you had to go on a hiatus from your parents for a few years, what kind of led to that, and how did you get back, if you ever got back? And hopefully something will be discussed tonight that if you're in that circumstance and situation, that it may give you some enlightenment and some tools to maybe start ushering back into that direction. So what we're going to do, we just have some speaking points that we're going to bring up, done with a little research, and then we're just going to delve into it. And we definitely want you to be interactive. Definitely share your perspectives, your opinions, your experience about it. And with that, we'll get into it. So Doc.
Hold on, I want to share a story. So you asked the question. You said first, "Hey sis, how you doing?" That's my girl.
That's my bird. That's my baby bird.
Okay, so you asked the question. You said, "What's a situation where there have been some hiccups?" Right. So I'll just talk about my family because we are healed from this, so we can talk about it. My mom didn't want me to marry my husband. So that was like some conflict, right? And so I really had to like navigate, this my mama, this my man, what we gonna do, right? Like, where's what's gonna happen? Because it really only leaves me in the middle. And so really what it came down to was boundary setting. You just have to set a boundary. You just have to say, like, this is what I'm choosing for me, and you got to get with it or get left. Obviously, I said it more respectful than that, but that's kind of what it is. And I think we're afraid to set those boundaries because we've been conditioned as children, like, don't talk back, don't question authority, don't do this, don't do that. But now, like, as an adult, you have to question the authority. I can't just let you living at your house, running my house. That's not going to work. That'd be the problem. But we are past that. We are healed now, and everybody loves everybody at my house.
So, but with that being said, it posed a question like, was there like hiatus? You had to work through that? Was it a short correction? Did it take time to get back on good ground?
It took a couple of years.
Oh,
my mom is very like myself, very assertive, very direct.
You said it.
Yeah, so she's very like, I see this ain't right. What's going on? What we talking about? What we doing? And we had to kind of be like, hey, this is how we live here, and if you don't like it, go back to your house, sis. But now, like, everything's fine. She visits, and everybody's great.
Okay.
But it took a couple years because, and so not to make her out to be the complete bad guy, like, when you've had that much control over somebody's life, to watch them go in a direction that maybe you didn't see for them, or maybe you didn't want for
Right.
them, or that you don't
Right.
have control over, like that's got to be tough.
So I think that's a key speaking point. And I think we'll get into it. So I don't want to jump and do the spoiler. So we'll kind of go on that. Thanks, Doc. I appreciate you being candid and transparent and kind of sharing some of your own story. Personally thinking about maybe family members, but like with parents or those who raised me, and being a conflict of, I've developed my own way, or I made a decision and they were just totally against it. I don't have anything that fits right into that.
Right.
Because I've been able to, because of course my upbringing and structure was a little bit different. But maybe something will come. Maybe there's something that'll derive that I can feed into from a personal standpoint. So when we're talking about parental boundaries, so in the research, redefining roles came up. It says explore how the roles of parents and adult children change over time. So we can talk about that a little bit, and then discuss the challenges and opportunities presented by this transformation and how it affects the family dynamics. So you made another one. You become an adult, now you're making a transition of getting married. So did you get married pretty early?
No, I was old. I was like 28.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you definitely should have been out. Yeah, you've been out there. I'm not. That didn't sound right. That came out.
It did not. It did not sound right at all. Because
you've been an adult and on your own for quite a bit.
Yeah, but I think so. Not just my family, but like families in general. To make it a little bit more general, when you're redefining that role, it's like friction. It's like you're remolding something. You're reshaping it. Like you're breaking what was to create something new. And so, if previously the dynamic has been one person, the parent, has all of the authority, they have all of the control, they have all of the say, to then start to pull back some of that control and be like, hey, that's cool over there, that's not really cool over here, it's gonna be conflict.
Absolutely, especially
because you're the one that's changing the game. Like people get in their lane and they like, this is what we're doing and this is how we move. We're humans, we're creatures of habit. And so when you introduce something new and you're like, we ain't finna do all that no more, you're essentially changing the game, and there will be conflict.
Yeah, and when you're redefining roles, I think that's something that has to be understood. I believe, especially in our community, it's a little bit more difficult because in our community, I think the parents have this, whether it's subconscious or consciously, a conscious expectation for you to become what you would like them to become. They're supposed to follow the track that you follow. They're supposed to believe what you believe, and their values are supposed to be the same values as yours. And at a certain point, even earlier than later, children, and this is something I'll say, children are human beings too. They're going to have experiences outside of you. They're going to get, and even speaking about the differences in generations, the amount of information that is allotted to them. So they're going to come up with their own ideas and concepts to, on what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the being forthright and understanding, okay, my child is going to be their own person at some point. Now I can guide, I can input, but that doesn't mean that that's what's going to stick and stay. Now you teach them the good things, and sometimes you got to let them go learn it on their own if they don't want to take the advice. But as a parent, that's setting a boundary. There becomes a point where you have to let them go do or go be what they're going to be. And I think it should be talked about more so early on than later.
I don't think enough parents are excited about letting them go. So my baby just went to college, and that was very difficult, but also like the stress is just different. So I'm worried about her in a sense that like she's away from me. I can't like put my hand on her immediately, but also I'm not worried about her day to day, right? Like if she eat or she don't eat, like sis got to figure it out. So I think we're not talking enough about the stress will be different and like embracing that. It doesn't have to be a bad thing because you letting your child go. It doesn't have to be a bad thing because your child don't want to come home for Thanksgiving. They just want to come home for Christmas. Like I think sometimes any type of change, any type of like, let's reevaluate these roles, it's met with conflict because we think change is bad. Change doesn't have to always be bad. Like it's not disrespectful if I don't want you to yell at me. It's not disrespectful if I say, hey, this subject is off limits. We're going to put a little boundary here and not talk about it. Like, I think sometimes we overemphasize the negativity and overemphasize like things are negative and or bad. And I don't think it has to be that way.
I would agree. Can't say that any differently. So when we're redefining roles, what is a good way for parents to maybe look at it as that, because even as adults, you care about your children, their well-being, their safety, as you just mentioned. But what are some key things you got to look at to kind of make that shift? And maybe even win. But when you're redefining the roles, at some point they're always going to be they're going to be your daughter or your son or whatever they may be, because I know now we have different terms. They may be ambiguous. They may be your offspring, but at some point they're no longer your child. Does that make sense?
You gotta give up possession. Yeah. This is your adult. Like, so when you keep saying like my child, my daughter, my son, like that's possessive in nature. And I think that being okay with them not being your possession.
Being okay without them being your. So when you're redefining roles, you need to understand that at some point they're not going to be your possession or your responsibility. And not to them.
Right.
You may be willing to be there to provide certain things, but if it's something that it's not something you can force upon them, they have to be willing or come and ask for that, so to speak. Does that am I hearing you right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then also trust your parenting. Like if you did a good job and you taught them, hey, look before you cross the street, then you're not necessarily worried about them playing in traffic because you taught them to look both ways before they cross the street, right? So trusting your parenting that you did the best you could, you gave them everything that you had to give, it's on them.
Makes sense to me. Makes very good sense to me. So with that being said, the next point, and this is a fundamental thing. Let's just say that you'll hear this, and if you're talking about relationships, you're talking about improvement, any type of human interaction, communication is going to be a fundamental pillar in that conversation. So addressing, effective communication methods between parents and adults. And I think you've touched on a little bit, like the child saying, I don't want to be, hollered at, I'll state my idea. And then the importance of open, honest, and respectful dialogue to navigate sensitive topics and establish those clear boundaries. So communication about setting boundaries and establishing the evolving relationship, and then the way that you do so, even all the way throughout that. So it needs to be open, needs to be honest. But what key points do you have on that?
That's it. Be respectful. But I think so we talk a lot about communication and we're saying like, speak this way and make sure you're articulating what you want. But I think the piece that we're missing is that everybody has to be actively listening. Because I can tell you what I want, but if you're not listening to me, then you're not going to give it to me and we'll still be in conflict. So I think coming to the table open, but also with your ears open, like listening to what the new boundary is or the new role is or the new need is in the dynamic. So I would say listen with an open mind.
Yeah, with parents, I would say that comes with redefining the role and understanding that your offspring they're a person of their own, and so you have to detach on I'll say my mother had a saying: if I ever asked a question like "why,"
As I said, so.
she said, "No, because I'm the mama and you the child." That was the answer. That was all of the answer.
Mm.
So I'm saying that is not effective communication. You know what I mean? But as you make that change and you redefine the role, the way that you communicate, like you actually need to be intentional about when you're communicating with your child. At some point, you're going to know that they're kind of becoming in their own. I'm talking about even in early teens. Start addressing them as talking in depth with them like you would an adult, and not looking at them as a child. Because if you keep treating them like a child, communicating with them like a child, when they get in adulthood, now it's just this flash bomb of more mature conversation, being more emotionally in tune. And as a parent, you need to have kind of worked on that.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So
I do.
that communication is going to be great. And then that rolls into the respect and autonomy, which I think is hard for a lot of for parents, especially within our community. Emphasizing the significance of respecting each other's autonomy.
Mm.
Does everybody know what autonomy means? Okay. And personal choices.
So
No.
I think for our that's crazy. These people know what autonomy means. If not,
Yeah,
they on Google real quick.
they're real quick.
I think that especially in our community, it's been difficult, the autonomy piece, just because of like what we've been through, right? So you know how each generation is supposed to do better. So like my grandmother was a maid, basically, my dad's mom. And so obviously she doesn't want her children to be made. She wants them to do better. And so I think a lot of times the autonomy piece is missing because we're always trying to move the culture forward. We're always trying to move each generation forward. And we have these expectations that they're going to be better than us. And so I think in our culture, that's probably why we struggle with the autonomy.
Gotcha. Autonomy, like letting them do their own thing.
Yes.
There's
Because you're like, no, you're not going to mop these floors. You're going to be a doctor. What if I want to be a doctor?
Well, I do have a personal story on that one. I'm guilty. Yeah, I'm guilty of that. With my youngest daughter, she had a direction in education that she wanted to go, and I made the choice that wasn't the right direction to go. Of course, I thought I was being logical, looking at her gifts, things that I had seen her intrinsically be really great at, but her interest was in another area. And so, being influential as I was, I guided her into another direction, which I think she would have been outstanding and great in that too. But over time, just with my own growth and understanding, I look back on it, and I've as much as have shared that with her and admitted to her, yeah, that was a mistake on my part. I really should have supported you, whether I thought you were going to be great at it or sustain in it. I should have gave you the opportunity and helped you move in that direction. And we can always redirect. If I had any great regrets, that's one. And again, I've even told her that, talked to her about that.
You talking about Alexis? She's your youngest?
Yes.
Yeah, let sis do them lashes. They making a killing doing them lashes, man.
That ain't that ain't it. She's a superstar.
They be charging out the woodwork for them lashes.
She's a superstar in it. And her creativity, man, and her drive and initiative kind of saved her from my faux pas, is what I would say. So I love her entrepreneurial spirit, and she's definitely taking advantage of that. So if anybody doesn't know, it's Blitz Lash. I'm trying to give her an alley oop. She can put that in the chat.
Okay, put it in the chat, sis.
So let's read some of the comments. Your lifestyle, it says, "I'm glad you have learned the error of your ways." Yes, appreciate that.
Can we take a minute and say how beautiful her picture is? Sis, your picture is amazing. Okay. Go ahead. That's the only comment. Her picture's stunning.
Outstanding.
I know.
All righty. So as we keep as we move along. So we talked about redefining roles, the communication styles. So be respectful, and then the respect and autonomy that needs to be given to both, actually. And then the next element is emotional boundaries. So
Yes.
discussing, emotional aspects of parental boundaries, like handling their expectations. See, we so good, we kind of roll right into that.
Oh,
Handling the expectations, dealing with guilt, and maintaining emotional well-being for both parents and adult children. I think that alludes to the story you shared right from the beginning, because of course I'm pretty sure you felt guilty and bad because you love your mother, but right now you're making a decision for Latoya, right?
right.
And that it, like, Ma, I love you, I respect you, but this is my life and this is the direction I'm going. And so we have to learn that our sibling, or not siblings, our offspring they'll make some decisions and decide to go in into directions that we may not even feel like they're successful, or we may have a certain level of expectation of greatness in it, and we just got to let that go. So developing that emotional boundary is important. Just because you feel that way doesn't mean they feel that way.
Yep, I got a comment for that. Let's catch up. She's saying, "Thank you, gorgeous. You are so welcome." And then there you go.
Yeah, you had to get that. Then you had to receive that. So Facebook user says, "Great that you can see your own shortcomings as parents and admit to our kids." Yeah, I think
I actually think that's important because it teaches them to take accountability for their own mistakes. If they can see you say, "Oh, I apologize, I did something wrong," then they know that it's okay and it's not shameful behavior to take accountability and own up when you've done something to hurt somebody. So I think it's great when we say that.
And I want to say to the Facebook user, she says, or they say, continuously growing and learning. That's healthy. Absolutely. And I think that goes throughout the parent child relationship, very far. I would say that, my grandmother was very integral in my upbringing. And right now I, provide care for her the way that she provided care for me for a long stint of my life. So those things have to evolve and change continuously. The next element, and this will be interesting to hear. Well, let's talk about financial independence. So, like, looking into financial boundaries, how to strike balance, between providing that support and encouraging financial independence in our children, our adult children.
So I think this is really intriguing, right? Like this one is like touchy. So yes, be financially independent, stay out of my pocket. But then also, I know you don't have it because I know how long it took me to get it. So am I gonna make you struggle? You know what I mean? Like,
did you struggle?
Did I struggle? So struggle is subjective, and it felt struggle to me.
She said it felt
but I dare say someone else would say that it wasn't a struggle. So there's that. But financial independence is crazy because sometimes we want our parents' money, but we don't want their lecture. We want their dollars, but we don't want their opinion. And I am of the belief that if your parent combines the two, you got to figure out which one you want the most.
Because if I pay, I have say.
You have how much say?
How much do I pay?
So you give me $300. How much say do you get?
What am I giving you $300 for?
Because I asked for it.
For what is it for? Because I'm not giving you $300 if I don't know what it's for.
Oh, you one of them. Okay, light bill.
Oh, I gotta say. Because what I'm gonna say, and then also, do you stay alone?
Yes, I stay by myself.
Okay. I ain't gonna let you sit in the dark. But I'm finna get in your business. Because obviously, now how did we not have our light? How did we not have our light money? Because if we didn't, then we need to talk about maybe our financial habits. Are we planning for the future?
See, this is why people got OnlyFans pages because they don't want none of that. Just give them their money.
Nah. can't do it because I'm gonna be doing, and I'm gonna tell you this, that would go with if it was a friend, not even if you're an adult and you grown and you ask for money, then you got to take what come with that. Because the bank gonna ask you, well, what do you have to pay it back? What do you have to pay it back with? Have you handled your money well in the past? You haven't. Well, then the answer is no. So I got to get you prepared for what's really coming if you're my child. And if you're my friend, I got to get you prepared for what's coming because you're my friend.
So here's the thing. I don't think that you're wrong, right? I actually think that you're right. I just think that if somebody is humbling themselves enough to ask, they ain't got no other options. Why does it have to be so difficult and so in depth? Can't you just give me a short speech, teach me how to budget, and then give me the money?
I don't think it was a short trip to not having your $300 for your electric bill.
I mean, maybe it was.
Sound
okay,
like
$80
this may be hitting a little close to home, maybe some of your past days. So because you is not
I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna listen to the speech if I need the money because I ain't got no other choice. I'm just trying to help.
I'm gonna be honest. The speech ain't really the issue. It's more of a question of what are we gonna do next to fix that. Like I'm gonna, I can assist you, but what I don't want to do is keep doing that.
Right. So I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your child.
So on the child side,
right.
If you want a certain level of autonomy, you want boundaries set, then you have to start operating and putting in practices that help develop that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. One of the greatest gifts a child can give their parents is to give their parents peace of mind. Show some responsibility with your resources and that you can sustain and take care of yourself. It's the greatest gift. Reading the comments, Mr. J. Gilliam said, struggle creates character. And I agree with that. I think, and so to that point, if we're talking about financial independence, the thing is, don't start that type of training when you gave them no training before. At that point, if you've been carrying the weight all the way until they got into college and through college, and now you're like, oh, you grown, go get it. Now you kind of did them a disservice.
Agreed.
When they get any kind of money, whether they win a prize, you need to be talking about financial literacy to them. You need to be talking about really putting it in their mind. As kids, we dream. We don't think about the details of we just come home, we cut on the lights, we cut on the water. We enjoy the heat, eat the food, and don't know where it came from and what it took to get it. So I know personally, I was in a relationship, and the young lady's son, he's an adult, and he kind of got out. He was out on his own, and it was funny. The thing that kind of pinged him on, like, man, I really had it good, is because he went and bought some seasonings at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, I'm gonna buy in bulk. Let me get the big bulk size. And he saw how much they cost. And then he realized, he was like, man, when I was growing up, and we had every seasoning, and then we have the backup. And then he thought about, as he's shopping, he's looking at the food, and he's now making the connection of, man, my mother was spending, man, probably $1,000 of, what I'm saying, to just keep food in there, and I ain't never want for nothing. And it gave him a newfound respect for that. So, it happens in different ways. I think you should have those the key point here is, and what he didn't notice until he became an adult. Right. And what I'm saying is, we should be aggressive enough and become conscious enough to start having those conversations in their preteen years. Whenever they understand the concept of money, as soon as they start asking for money for stuff, let's start talking about money.
Yes, sis. They ain't want to hear that speech.
They don't want to hear the speech. Wow. Man, it's sad. It's sad.
A little comedy in there, sprinkle that in.
No, absolutely. So we talked, redefining roles, communication styles, respect and autonomy, emotional boundaries, financial independence. And so Sounds pretty simple but straightforward, but time management. So managing, time commitments to the family, where you have to be when you have to be with the parents, and the importance of respecting each other's schedules and priorities. Because as you start to you kind of touched on it, as they are, let's say they're in their late teens, they start building a life of their own, having relationships, significant relationships, not necessarily romantically, but best friends, groups that they run with. They have, or if they in certain organizations, they may want to be somewhere where you want them to be at this family function, but they have a conflict. It's like starting to open up and allow them to kind of develop that independence and kind of respecting their time too. I know there's some parents like, cringe time. You use a child. You ain't got no nerves. I didn't heard that. On your nerves, you ain't got no nerves.
You ain't got no nerves. Yes, they do. That's
right.
crazy.
They human. They people.
Right. I think the time thing is probably for like older adults when they're starting their own family and they can't like carry on the traditions of their family of origin because they got their own family that they're trying to create traditions for. And I think it's just important to have a conversation about what is your expectation of me and can I do this or not moving forward.
Yeah, and I think even in the college years, like you mentioned, like they may not want to come back for Christmas. They may want to stay where they are,
or go with their new boyfriend,
all of those things. And so you just got to prepare yourself and be okay with accepting that and allowing those things to unfold. But we know that will be better if you started early. You listen to the Perspective podcast and get some of these key points. And start develop. Yeah, for those, I'm serious. Those who have younger children or who are moving into that, these are things that are be important to kind of think over. We can't tell you how to raise your children or how to run your house, but I think it will be more beneficial than not. And then, so conflict resolution, this will be interesting. So conflicts, that may arise due to the boundary setting. So what are some strategies, Doc? I know I'm kind of going to hand the gauntlet over. So what are some strategies to resolving those constructively?
Identify what the conflict is. Sometimes we find ourselves arguing about things that we're not really arguing about, right? Mm-hmm. Like you saying, you was being disrespectful. They weren't being disrespectful. You missed them and they haven't been home. They haven't been home because you keep yelling at them, calling them disrespectful, right? So identifying what the actual conflict is going to be number one. What are we upset about? What are we trying to resolve? What is going on? And then from there, it's everything else that we've already talked about. It's being open-minded. It's active listening. It's effective communication. It's setting boundaries and also discussing what the expectation is moving forward. So you've identified the conflict, because you watch the Perspective podcast and Eric loves talking about effective communication. So you're going to use all of those skills all at the same time. Everybody feels heard. Everybody feels validated. And then what is the solution? How do we not get here again? Making sure that whatever the expectation is, it's agreed upon between both people. My expectation moving forward is that you're going to come home once a month. Can you do that? Yes. Can't do that. Then what do we have in place? Okay, if I can't make it this month, I will call you and let you know something changed.
Yeah, and that ego, like parents just like they just want to bogart the situation, and then children saying, I'm not going to fold to it. I'm grown now, until they really get there. And they be like, man, I wish I wasn't grown right now.
I wish I wasn't grown.
Being grown is tired. But I say that what you just said is perfect, Doc. In my short way, I'm saying you got to address the pain that heals the real pain. So you said some of the thing is really, I missed you, but now you're saying you're being disrespectful because you're not calling, you're not coming home. And then a parent may respond with not sending the money or not helping them with an issue that they've always helped them with, which is being retaliatory, and that's just going to lead to a more issue. So addressing the real issues, as Doc would say. And so the next one, let's read some of the comments. I think we may have skipped over a few.
I didn't skip nobody.
So being an adult is overrated. Absolutely. And I want to say to those Facebook users, there should be a little clause at the bottom that if you give StreamYard the permission, it's not going to ask you for like any pertinent information. It just allows your name to be shown, because we definitely want to address you with respect and appropriately. So take a look at that and see if you can click on that and have that happen. Other than the next step or the next topic or a point of discussion when we're talking about parental boundaries is cultural and generational differences. How to recognize that they're there, to appreciate the impact of cultural and generational differences. So, Doc, what do you have for us on that?
I have a very so I have had the pleasure of speaking with people from varying backgrounds, varying cultures, whatever, and I understand that my viewpoint is very much Southern Black American. That's just my viewpoint, right? Very much so. So I will speak to that. I think what we have to understand is there's not necessarily anything wrong with the old way. But it's not anything wrong with the new way. I think sometimes older generations are like, well, this new generation, y'all doing it like this. Like it's something wrong with what we doing.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like my mom says all the time, you doing that new wave parenting because my children get to cry, they get to ask questions, like be human. And so for her, it's like, y'all doing something different over there. I'm not saying anything is like wrong with what she did. I think she did the best she could with what she had. Now, once you know better, you do better.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so I think from that perspective, from that like generational perspective, understanding that the world that our parents prepared us for is not the world that we living in. The world that I prepared my oldest for is not the world that I have to prepare my younger two for. And so just understanding that things are going to change and being okay with that. Now, in different cultures, it's very much a community perspective. It's very much like give back. You go out, you become a doctor, you come back and you give everybody your money, right? Like that's for real.
No,
I was like, no, you have to give them your money. She was like, yes. I was like, I'm so sorry. Like,
no, that is the expectation.
No, like for real.
Like, like I mentioned, I've been in recruiting. So different cultures, individuals that come from different cultures, I have to recruit them differently. Like especially if it's, talent that I'm really looking for, they fit the criteria, what we're looking for. I know the hiring manager really wants them, but then I have to go and have that conversation with them. They're going to, want to negotiate and all those things. But in some cultures I learned, you think, oh, they trying to lowball me or take time or they got another offer. No, they really do need to go talk to their mother or.
No, that's a real thing.
And if she says they can, then they can. They can want the job, be ready to roll, but I have to go talk to my family and let them know what it is. So sometimes you have to be prepared. And I've done this, had a conversation with a parent. Not necessarily, and I'm talking about this is an adult in a career field, but they had to consider that because it's a family, the family dynamic. So to point to the cultural and generational differences. In our community, it's definitely prevalent, as you pointed out, talking about that new wave. But on the other end, even the adult children, be mindful. They came up in a different time with different information, and so your information may be different, and it may be better. It may be more efficient. It may be more effective because we've learned more. We have the benefit of 2020 hindsight, right? We can look back. So with that being said, understand that. So you can't hold that parent under siege or even, I would say, convict them on the fact that they didn't know. People can only operate at the level of consciousness that they have, right? And so if we think about that, no, you're definitely getting to me, Doc. But if we think about that, I think it would ease the person's, whether it's the older or the younger person, from being so angry, I would say, with whoever they're in conflict with.
So I think the problem is, yes, people can only give you what they got to give you. They can only work at their level of consciousness. Yes, 100% yes. I think the problem comes when you're telling them, hey, this is what happened to me. This is my perspective on it. And they like, yeah, whatever. Not yeah, whatever. Like my feelings matter. And then that causes the adult child to like not even want to fool with you because you're not open to anything else. And so I'm not saying apologize for how you raised them, or I'm not saying like bow down to your child. I'm saying be open to conversation and being open to hearing that your best wasn't good enough.
Wait, you see, you hit the corner, got up on two wheels. Wait, say that again. Be prepared to hear that your parenting just was not good enough, right?
Yeah, like maybe your best wasn't good enough.
I think many times, that's a whole nother thing.
Like that sucks, right? Like my daughter has said something to me and I'm like, girl, like I'm gonna pay for the first 6 therapy sessions because I can't go back in time. My bad. This was my thought process. And I tell her all the time, like, you had a different mama than these boys. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I have a child in college and I got one that's not even in kindergarten. They got 2 different mamas. It just is what it is, right?
No, yeah, and it is 2 different. Yeah, they definitely do. I remember. That's why grandkids don't whoop. Grandparents don't whoop their grandkids.
Yep.
Not because they don't have to. Now, not all of them. Man. I know some that get down. You know what I mean? But it's a different level of parenting. I think on the. I'm referencing the Cosby Show. I remember Bill Cosby looking at his granddad, and he was like, "Let me see what money I could get for these grandbabies," and they all come run around. He was like, "I remember I couldn't. I had to shovel snow and do work and all of that." He was like, it's a different aspect. Or the older sibling used to get it rough. The parents learn over time. By the time they get to their 3rd or 4th child,
we're tired. We're tired.
And they just realize it ain't that serious.
Yeah.
And things I was serious about before, I shouldn't be so serious. And then the older child is like, wait a minute, hold up. Who did it and why come? Where did this person come from? You know what I mean? So we got to keep that in mind that happens. So thanks, Doc, for pointing that out. We're down to the last.
Want to hit the comment? Hit the comment.
Yeah, let's hit the comments. Your lifestyle says the new, different way helps children.
I think so too.
The new way means less childhood trauma. Says other cultures definitely require the children to. And I'm probably
the money thing, like
to do that. Yeah, I definitely would agree with your lifestyles.
But back to like the generational thing, I think you just have to be open to hearing your best wasn't enough, and that's okay. You did your absolute best.
Do you have to say that?
I mean, that's kind of like what it is.
Your best wasn't good enough. What was not? Well, I mean, it was good enough. They're not dead. They're capable.
Yeah, right. But they feel some type of way. They holding on to something. They're riddled with anxiety. Like something is wrong. That's why y'all are having this conversation. So it wasn't good enough for this child. Okay, I can say it differently.
No.
Efforts failed. No, I'm just kidding.
What you did was trash.
Trash.
You can say it in many other ways. Now I can definitely identify with that, and I think it's very important. And that comes back to the earlier comment of ego, because some parents don't want to hear that they didn't, they'll focus on one aspect that they did, that they felt like was very.
But I did this for you, and we did this for you. Yeah, but over here, when you was beating me, that wasn't cool. This part is cool right over here.
Over here, when you were neglecting me, and I'm gonna say this, when you weren't preparing me for what I was really walking into in life, bad examples. And then on the parents' part, the inability that, like you just said, and I think that's huge, the inability to accept that you may have caused some damage, you may have caused some trauma. And if you really love your child, I think you would accept that and say, okay, well, what can I do to impact that or improve that or to heal that in some way?
It ain't even that. The people that I see, they don't even want all that. They grown now. They just want you to say, I did not know that I hurt you. I'm sorry. That's it. Because I ask them, hey, what's going to make this better for you? Hey, what do you need to move on from this? Hey, what are you hoping that you get from this conversation with your parents? Like, I ask these questions because I really want to know. And most people just want validation and apology. That's it.
Validation and apology. Listen, if you have a strained relationship with your child, they question how you raised them. Say, man, sit down, check your ego, and listen to your child.
Mm-hmm.
If it's if it's an apology that they need, or just to kind of sift through why you did what you did, man, take your time to do that. If you can't do that, it's something wrong with you, and you need to seek help.
Yeah.
I'm saying it. I hope the world hears it. I'll accept all the smoke. I'll accept all the smoke on that. But okay, that's next.
Okay, comment. Come on, comment.
All right. So I agree, Doc. The truth can hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's that pain to hear the real pain. Your lifestyle says, I apologize to my son while he was in high school for any mistakes, known and unknown.
I love that.
Man, because
like it's the unknown too, because sometimes you really have the best intentions and you like, okay, this 1 + 1 is 2, and then 2 + 2 is 4, and then they hit you with the new math and you be like, what is going on? Yeah.
Yeah, so it can get down, it can get bad. And the thing is the trauma that it causes. Because they walk around with it. It is so many things. Thank you, Doc, for being a therapist. We need to clone you a little bit. So we're down to the last 10 minutes, and we got a few more. So parental perspective. Parents sharing their thoughts. And that's what I'm saying. Being honest, opening up. These are my confessions to their children, especially when they become an adult. I think having that conversation do you remember when I did A? It was because of B and C.
I'm with that.
And I think it will help. It'll help in what we just discussed about, maybe, getting some repair. And that may be new. But now you're adults, step into that role, be open to sharing your thoughts with your children, not trying to have a facade like you know every damn thing, because
right.
You 100% absolutely do not. Absolutely do not. Definitely share your own experiences, but be prepared for them to come back and say, yeah, but I wouldn't have done it that way. I would have done A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And be like, that's okay, good. At least you have a thought and a perspective that you would have went with, or a view. I think that's a mark of a good thing. Anything on that one, Doc? Parental perspective?
No, you want to read the comment though?
All right. Facebook you says, I apologize to my kids so they understand I do fall short, but know my love is great and heart is open to constructive criticism and healthy conversations. That's outstanding. And then the super duper Califragilistic Alexis Butler says, yeah, my mom best was definitely not good enough.
And
Yeah, I almost felt some type of way, but that's okay. Facebook user says, I want my kids to heal from mentally as well emotionally all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex says, oh my God, I wish I could pin that to something, Doc.
We're going to put it on a t-shirt.
Man, we playing around. So we moving into some of our last points. So support systems. What's the importance of having a strong support system, whether it's within the family or outside? Latoya, the therapist, and the positive impact that healthy boundaries can have on their relationships.
Yeah, you just have to have a support system, because we weren't designed to do this life alone. And so having someone there to support you within reason is cool. And I think, so people hear boundaries and they be like, ooh, scared. Somebody's going to be mean. No, boundaries are just like, rules of operation. If I set a boundary with you or you set a boundary with me, it's a wonderful thing because it means you're open enough to share yourself with me, but you just want to share yourself with me in this way. You know what I'm saying? It's like rules of engagement, rules of operation. This is how we're going to be in relationship with one another. And so I think that the boundaries enhance the relationship because we've discussed our boundaries. And so now we've discussed our expectations. And so you know what I expect of you. I know what you expect of me. Cool, let's run it. We BFF forever.
Gotcha. I like it. And so, because it talked about, you know, setting those within the family. So, like you said, open discussion on these are the expectations, these are the boundaries. But it takes discussion and getting into it to find out what those are. So nothing is perfect. So I don't want anyone to say, well, how would I do that? How would I go about? Just start. And then I promise it will shape itself out. And then also be open to bringing outside help into helping set those boundaries and that construction and maybe guide it, maybe get some coaching and some teaching on that to navigate the challenges related to the parental boundaries. Because it's going to be there, but you need to discover it. So you want to make sure that it's being done constructively and effectively as you start learning those boundaries. Because you know somebody say the wrong thing, it may be taken the wrong way, and it send you the other direction instead of bringing you closer. So that's ideal. And then I thought this was peculiar, so I threw it in there, and I was like, Doc, I have to kind of unload this. So self-care. It talked about how stress or how significant stress is for both the parents and adult children, as setting boundaries often involves that emotional and psychological challenges as we just kind of talked about.
Mm-hmm. So you saying like practicing self-care after you've done this? Or you want to take care of yourself.
Which I think self-care is that's a misnomer. I think self-care in every aspect of life. So anything that's gonna bring stress or is challenging and brings emotional challenge and stress into the play, you know, self-care and finding that out could be something you do together. Maybe set that up in a self-care way. And then, because, you know, if you go to a spa together or go to like on a sporting event together, may open up discussion.
In like a neutral territory where you're both calm and relaxed. Yeah, that makes sense. But I also think sometimes setting boundaries can be difficult, and we don't talk enough about like the downsides to boundaries. While I think they're a beautiful thing, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that there'll be some guilt, there'll be some shift in relationships. It's not always as easy as just like, hey, this is my boundary. Okay, girl. Like it's not always that easy. So making sure that you practice that self-care after you've had to have such an emotionally charged conversation is going to always be important.
All right. And we move. I didn't want to miss this one, and I saved it for last. Okay. Growth and reflection. So encouraging both parents and adult children to reflect on their growth as individuals and the positive impact that healthy boundaries can have on the relationship. So when we think about growth, you know, parents become adults, and when it comes to your children, don't lose the fact that you're still learning yourself, and you're going to continue to learn as they're learning as they're coming up. So I think if you understand that, hey, I don't have all the answers, I haven't got it all figured out, and I'm still learning every day, then maybe you would be able to be more open to have, you know, to respect your child as someone who is learning and still learning every day.
I got nothing for that. That was good. That was great.
I appreciate it, Doc. So we got the last 2 minutes, and that was and I'll say learning from others to wrap up, and then just go into your final thoughts. So a story or experience of how you learn from someone else as it pertains to setting boundaries with parents.
Hold on. So Mr. J. Gilliard says there really should be a parenting book that updates every 10 years. They actually have those, and the people do update them. I just don't necessarily subscribe to them because every child is different. Like that book may have worked for my oldest. I don't think it's a book out there for that last one. He is off the chain. But my final thoughts are, if you use effective communication and set your boundaries, I think that the relationship between the adult child and the parent can be phenomenal.
I love it. The thing that I wanted to highlight in my final is that parents, I would say on parents, those who have strained relationships with your adult children, right now is the time to swallow your ego, be able to accept the constructive criticism, and also be open and willing. If you say you love your children, and most importantly, if you respect them, then you will give them the closure. You will give them the understanding that they need, that they've been heard. And if you apologize for not knowing what you didn't know, and that you would want to try to improve that going forward. It's worth it. And it doesn't mean that you're right or wrong. It just means that what you knew then is different than what you know now, and we can be better. All right. All right, so we want to thank everybody, and I love I love our show. I love our viewers, the content that they use, the great advice that they always share, hearing the different perspectives. We appreciate you. We'll be here next Thursday, so definitely, if you would go to our Facebook page, like, share, invite others. We want to bolster the communication. Communicate with us on there. If there's things you want to hear about, things you want to discuss, please put that onto the Facebook group. So it's perspective, and we want to make sure that we're staying in contact with you. Also, go to all of the BS3 network outlets. We have Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Roku TV, YouTube. Go and look at some of the content. Things you like it, share, subscribe, all of those good things. But other than that, we thank you for spending time with us. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week. Y'all have a great one.